Hey, Jameson here, and this video is all about how to prototype your mobile applications. I build a lot of mobile apps myself, and one of the first things you want to nail down is what is this thing actually supposed to do? So whether you're building it for a client or you're building your own app idea, it's always a good idea to nail down what is this thing supposed to do, what does it look like, what features does it have, and there are two different steps to prototyping in my mind, and the first one is what I want to call paper prototyping. So step one is paper prototyping. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You sketch out this thing on paper, okay? If you have like a drawing pad on your iPad or something like that, that's totally fine. But I prefer just plain old pencil and paper if I've got it on hand. And the reason why this is step number one is because it's the quickest. There are literally no barriers to entry unless you don't have like a pencil and a paper for some reason, but I think everyone in the world can get access to one of those. So I'm going to say there's no barriers to entry, and that's why it's step number one, because it's so easy. There's no tools you need to learn, and it's very clear. Everyone can draw a picture no matter how bad you are at drawing or if your hand shakes. You can get some basic idea down on paper. When I say paper prototyping, I mean if you're building a mobile app, you might draw something like this. Alright, this app is going to have some sort of tab bar at the bottom, and then it's going to have this right here. This will be like the list of critical items. Okay, and then the text will go right there, and then that might be the first one, and then you can do like other ones, other screens. You can draw arrows between them, just whatever you feel like. There's no formal way of doing this. You don't need to memorize some way of like the perfect way to prototype something. The purpose is to increase understanding, so any format will do. Just draw up some pictures and draw how they might hook together. Maybe this arrow could be like if you click on this button right here, maybe like some sort of moon icon. I'm drawing out my CritList application, by the way, if you guys are familiar with that. Just an app I wrote for, it's like a to-do list app, which has like only 10 things per list. So you can't like overwhelm yourself. Anyways, so you could have something like this. Maybe this one has this one selected, and then this other one would have, the middle one selected. So however you want to do this, however you want to draw it up, do that. And then once you have a paper prototype, you can use it to actually build the next step, which is step number two. And let's see if I have room. I don't really have room. So let's erase this. Okay, step number two. I'm going to call this the skeleton prototype. Okay, and there are only two steps in my prototyping process. This is my own process, by the way. Anyways, skeleton is you basically build the actual mobile application but without any functionality. So it has like the high-level visual elements you're looking for. So like it can look like your actual paper prototype, and you should use that in order to build the skeleton. But like nothing works. Like if you tried to add something to that to-do list, that wouldn't work. But it would have the whole interface with like all the tabs and things, and maybe you would have a few things on the list just to demonstrate how it's supposed to work. So you basically just build your paper prototype, but using actual software. And if you're using something like Ionic, or honestly regardless of what you're using, it's probably fairly easy to get some visuals up on the screen. The hard part of building apps is like the logic and the functionality, the validation, storing the data on the back end. All that stuff takes a lot of time, and when you're building the skeleton prototype, you don't want to take a lot of time. You want to do it as fast as possible. This paper prototype, is kind of for internal use, like just you, and showing, maybe your family, your friends, some people, to give you some initial feedback before you go out and build the actual skeleton prototype, which you can use this to like continue on and build your full real app, which is that's kind of one of the reasons why I recommend using paper and then the skeleton, is because you can use the skeleton to move forward because it has real code. Like you might have to change some things around, refactor some things, but it's got some visual elements that could be very useful when you're building your real application. And when you're building these prototypes, you want to make sure that you start from the top down. Like, you get the biggest, most important pieces first, and then improve from there. Because if you have like all the little details of all these different pages figured out, and then you discover at a high level something doesn't actually work, something doesn't play out the way you thought it was going to, when you do get to the other pages and you complete that big picture, those smaller changes will go to waste if there was a flaw in the big picture. So like I was saying over here with the other app, you would want to draw out like the pages first. Like, this page goes over here, and then you can start filling in all the details of, okay, this is how this icon looks, and that this is what this page has on it. And it's important to keep in mind that the purpose of prototyping is to increase understanding, both your understanding of the problem and your solution to that problem, as well as potential customers. So you can show them your skeleton prototype since it's more functional, more professional. Like, you wouldn't want to come up to them with like a couple of pieces of paper and be like, hey, do you want this? Does this solve your problem? They probably wouldn't be too excited about that. It's a little bit too ghetto, but this serves our purposes for helping us build the skeleton prototype and making sure we get the big picture right. So the paper prototype is really for internal use. All right, so I'll write that. This is internal. And then the skeleton prototype, that is external. So this two-step prototyping process, it's great. It's going to get you past any obstacles in your big design. It's going to allow you to make progress internally and then flesh out that skeleton based on the paper prototype, and then validate that prototype with your customers, make any changes. Prototype as much as possible, like before you actually build the functionality of the app, because this is the time where things are changing the most. You're getting ideas and feedback. That way you won't lose any time building something that people don't want, because you're able to catch it fairly early on, either yourself or with your customers when you're talking to them, showing them your skeleton prototype. So guys, thanks for watching. If you like videos like this, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.